Welcome back. I'm your host, Mohammed Bey. Welcome to the second season of the Trade Broker's Diaries. In this program, I want to talk to you about being a trade broker. That is, the best way that you can be a trade broker and some tips that I have for you based on my experience over the last few years. One of the most important things that people tend to miss when they start going into trade brokering is the fact that it is a long-term process to go from just being another person with an email address and a cell phone to being taken seriously as a trade broker for a buyer or a seller with a real commodity, with a real buyer. Being a trade broker is like being a diplomat. You have to be courteous, you have to be professional, you have to know how to speak the king's English, whoever king that happens to be, whether it's Chinese, Japanese, British, American English, whatever. Also, it's sort of like being on a date. And when you're on a date, if you're the man, you put your date ahead of yourself. You take care of them, pull out the chair for them, open the door for them. It's the same thing being a trade broker. You have to put the needs of your client ahead of your own expectations to make a large income. And many trade brokers go into trade brokering thinking that all they need is a cell phone, an email address, and an attitude. One thing that I can tell you up front is that it's important to leave your attitude at the front door. Very often, trade brokers dealing in the international market, in a market that is mostly driven by English and by Western values of conduct, fail to realize, understand, or even comprehend the many differences in how business is done worldwide. But even with all these differences, there are some basic rules. For example, if you are on a conference call with people who you do not know, remember, the only way that they are going to judge you is by how you conduct yourself on the phone, what you say, and how you say it. They don't have any other references by which to judge you. So if you get on the phone and you're someone who has a very high opinion of themselves, for example, and the people begin to talk, we have the normal round of introductions, and you decide to cut people off in the middle of their sentences, or make snide remarks, or make assumptions about whether or not they can do what they say they're going to do before they have a chance to fully tell you what they can do, then when you hang up, the only thing that you are going to have achieved is that you are going to have left a negative impression in the minds of everyone else on the phone. It doesn't make a difference if you have enough money to be rude. What matters is that you're going to generate an opinion of yourself which is going to stick in perpetuity, and you will never live it down unless you go to great lengths. So if you're going to be a trade broker, you have to learn etiquette and protocol. You need to know how to speak properly, use proper diction when you're on the phone, don't interrupt people when you're on the phone. When you're using email, make the emails short and to the point. It's like working at a newspaper. When you write an email, remember these points: who, what, when, where, and why. And also how. Keep these in mind when you write your emails. Don't ramble on about other issues. Stick to the point. When people who are doing business read your email, when they talk to you on Skype, when they talk to you on the cell phone, they want to know what you can do, when you can do it, how you can do it, why you can do it, why they're going to pay you. And the answer to this question is, if you do something well, like provide a good service, you should be paid and paid well for it. And there should be no arguments about payments or commission. There's always room for discussion about payments and commissions when transactions begin. But usually, trade brokers, eager to make a big fat commission, tend to blow the deals out of the water themselves. They either talk about commissions when it's inappropriate, or they talk themselves out of the deal by saying things on the phone or in email which are inappropriate, like making blanket assumptions about what the person can or cannot do even before they've had a chance to prove it. If you have procedures which demand up front that a client produce all the paperwork, chances are you probably never closed a deal. And chances are you don't know how to talk to people in person. Because if you're the sort of person who wants everything now, my way or the highway, chances are if there's no room for negotiation, then chances are there's no possibility of doing the deal, because in this life everything is negotiable. So what I'd like to do now is go over some important tips, additional tips that I think are essential for you to learn how to be a good broker, because it is a learning process. It is not something you can just decide to do. You just can't leave high school or walk out of the cornfield and decide, I'm going to be a trade broker. You can make the decision, but then there's a long road to hoe before you get proficient at doing it. So let's take a look. As stated earlier, reputation is everything in international trade. Make sure that you put the client first. You may not make a sale today with this particular client, but you may make one tomorrow. So bear up and keep records of everyone you deal with. You never know when an opportunity to make a sale with a past client will appear. Leave your assumptions by the door when negotiating. Again, this dovetails into keeping your bridges unburned. You never know who knows who in this world. Everyone is 6 degrees of somebody. Be careful when starting new conversations with new potential sources or clients. Most conversations are going to be behind firewalls or some form of invisibility, not on a camera, over a phone, over email, maybe over Skype. Most initial conversations should be about getting to know one another, not domination. If you are into domination, if you are into control, if you're the strongest person in the room or the smartest guy in the room, stop it. It's going to cost you sales. Follow up with solid replies as quickly as possible. When you get information from a seller and the buyer is waiting on the other side of the phone, get back to them as soon as physically possible. Don't make them wait. Answer all the client's questions before they ask. When you get an offer, make sure that the procedures of the seller match the procedures of the buyer as closely as possible. Do not rush to tell the buyer that you have what they want or what they need until you are sure that you can answer all their questions, that all their questions are answered, and that the procedures are as close between the buyer and the seller as possible. If you cannot do this by figuring it out, get the two parties on the phone for a conference call. When approaching a seller for the buyer, you will find that most sellers want an ICPO on the buyer's letterhead with soft probe details. Advise the buyer that this is one of the procedures of the seller and make sure they are willing to provide it. This will establish harmony ahead of time at the beginning of the deal, instead of you going back and forth about the procedures. Be sure to identify on phone calls exactly who you're talking to. If you bring someone to a conference call and you say that they are the buyer or the mandate, make sure that you are correct. Do not disappoint your audience, in this case the audience being the seller. If you do, your seller will lose faith with you. Always be positive. Never promise the moon. Just say, it's possible, or it might be possible when asked if something can be done by a buyer or a seller. Keep all of your sent emails. This is important. Many times you'll have a system failure. If you have web-based mail out at Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail, do not empty your sent file. Keep as many records as you possibly can and possibly download them whenever possible. This way, you can maintain a chain of custody of files that you sent to would-be buyers and sellers and know who you've been dealing with over the months and years. If you do not have a website, be sure and get one. Get yourself a website and pay a professional to build you a site or build one yourself. And keep in mind that this site is going to be the world's window on you, not the other way around. Make sure the site looks professional, make sure it has images that load quickly, and has specific information on what you offer and how people can reach you. Do not try to be all things to all people. Be good at one or two things, selling or offering one or two services or commodities. If you spread yourself too thin, you will ultimately be of use to no one, including yourself. Learn about the area you choose to be in as a broker. Become an expert on something like HMS 1 and 2 or LNG or whatever. Work on learning the details. Join news groups. Read online or offline newsletters on the subject. Get yourself a mentor. Learn all that you can. It's very important to be as diplomatic as possible in the international arena. So always ask questions rather than make comments. It helps to make the conversation, more conversational. And always speak in a neutral and sensitive tone. Don't speak too fast. Don't speak in a demanding tone. Remember that delivery is everything. Throughout your experience as an international trade broker, your performance is going to be the measure of how well people judge you. It is not really your place to judge others as a broker, though it may become necessary from time to time. Rather than grill people on their past performance or ask for proof of their past performance, something that most buyers or sellers will not provide, do some of your own D&D. Check their email address on scam websites. See if they've been blacklisted. Try to locate their address on Google or International Yellow Pages. Call their phone number. See if anyone answers. Ask open-ended questions of your own contacts. Let other people do the bad-mouthing. Do not get caught bad-mouthing other people yourself, even if you think they deserve it. Always be able to say that you heard it from someone else. Do not talk about politics or war or religion unless your client brings it up. For example, do not mention the Nazis to the Germans. Do not talk about Taiwan to the Chinese. Do not mention Pearl Harbor to the Japanese. Don't talk about the First World War to people from Turkey. These are very sensitive issues and can make you look insensitive. Be respectful of other people's holidays and Sabbaths and periods of mourning. Do not call your upline on Sunday if you know that this is their day of worship unless they have otherwise told you to do so. Be sensitive to other people's culture and their personal needs. If someone is using Skype and lists themselves as do not disturb them. Do not risk being labeled as a jerk or as someone who is insensitive to the needs of others. As you can see, being a trade broker is more than having an email address, a cell phone, and a website. It's a wide range of skills covering a wide range of disciplines. Everything from diplomacy and tact to good time management to being a good listener and to having the perseverance to find what your clients need and the self-control to put your clients' needs ahead of your own desire to make a big commission. As always, if you have any questions, contact me. My email address is right here. Don't forget to visit my website, www.nafassi www.capitalistinternational.org, and our new website, www.bayslist.com, where you can post free and low-cost ads to over 600 cities worldwide, with more cities coming. Again, I'm your host, Mohammed Bey. Thank you for coming to my website. Thank you for watching this video. Take care. This program is sponsored by Bayslist. At bayslist.com, you can post free and low-cost ads to over 600 cities worldwide, with more cities being added every month. And by the International Import-Export Surplus Directory, containing hundreds of listings you can use to find products to sell in your business. Use the link in this video to visit our website, www.capitalistinternational.org. Thanks for visiting our website. Take care.